Well, this has been kind of difficult for me. I'm not gonna lie, I've been trying to do this intro podcast about 7 times, and I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of difficult trying to find what to talk about for your introductory podcast when you yourself have absolutely no idea what it's going to be about. So, alright, I figure I should go over how I'm going to try to schedule the format. I said schedule the format. Work on the format. God damn it, I can't talk. The initial format that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be introducing whoever is in the podcast. First, I'll say who I am. I'm Joshua Rush of the High Fly Hane. Welcome. And then I would ask who my guest is. Maybe ask where they live if they want to go into that, as well as what they do and their various hobbies and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to start off the first episode by doing all of that for myself so you can get an idea of what I'm going to be trying to do, and then I'll finish it up with a little bit of a story about my life just for the fun of it. And it could be any type of story that is relevant or irrelevant to your hobbies and all that sort of thing. So I'm going to get us started off by introducing myself. As I said, I am Joshua Rush, and I live in the testicular cancer known as Indiana. Basically, the thing about my state is we are looked at as the redheaded stepchild of the United States, and in many ways, we are kind of forgotten. And most people outside of the United States probably don't even know that a state named Indiana exists. If you've ever heard the word Indiana, you're probably thinking of Indiana Jones. Yeah. Basically, all you need to know about my state is we're known for corn. Not the food, not the band. We are known for potholes. We are known for a shitty football team. Although, to me, all football is shit. American football. And we are also known for a sport where you drive around in a circle. I bet you can't guess which one that is. Now, what I do for my day-to-day, I am a student at a university. I won't say which university it is, but you could probably guess if you're from Indiana. I am a major in communications, and I want to turn that into a career maybe in social media. I don't know. I don't really give a shit. I just want to make some money. And my hobbies include video games, watching Japanese professional wrestling, as well as listening to various genres of music. My favorite video game of all time would probably have to be Crusader Kings 2. However, I also like Europa Universalis 4, Monster Hunter. I'm big into Monster Hunter. I like Final Fantasy XIV, which I play a lot and do a lot of stuff on Instagram with. I also really like The Division, Warframe, all kinds of different games. My favorite Japanese professional wrestling shows would be New Japan Pro Wrestling, All Japan Pro Wrestling. Sorry if you heard my knuckle pop, that was by accident. I also like Dragon Gate, Pro Wrestling Noah, Wrestle One, all that kind of stuff. My favorite wrestler is Hiroshi Tanahashi, who I kind of wish was my daddy. And my favorite genre of music, well, I have multiple favorite genres of music. I love heavy metal, I love rap, I love a lot of different quote-unquote international genres of music, which are really just that country's version of a genre of music that is popular here in the West. Like, I like a lot of Mongolian hip-hop and rap. I also like a lot of Japanese metal and all that kind of stuff. I have an oddly broad yet also specific taste in music, and I could probably go into many, many stories about that. I also like to discuss things from history, like medieval history and all that kind of stuff. In fact, before I changed my major, I used to be a history major. Yes, I hated myself enough to start a major in history, but I didn't hate myself enough to finish it. And trust me, I love history as a subject. However, I do not want to turn history into a career, as I feel like that would end up with me hating history. and I'd rather not do that. Now, what am I wanting to do with this podcast? I am just wanting to make something that's just kind of fun, that's like a little outlet for me and my friends to just talk about just random shit. And I understand if that's not exactly appealing to a wide audience. That's fine. I just want to get like experience, just try to get into this, especially since the fact that I have very little experience with recording and editing and all that kind of stuff. So like any traction I get on this is more than I could possibly hope for. So I don't really mind. Now, my guests will probably be... My guests will probably be a couple of my friends that I have from Singapore, as well as friends that I have from Mexico and all across the world who have weird, hilarious, and sometimes heartwarming stories. And we'll just go about really anything, whether it's video games, movies, music, just day-to-day life, all that kind of stuff. Preferably stuff that is just weird, because weird stuff is best stuff. And yeah, that kind of thing. Now, my first story that I would kind of like to bring in as an example of this would probably be my first college story, because I just started talking about going into my whole college experience, and I figure, why not go the full gambit? Now, anybody who knows me knows that I enjoy indulging in the holy herb. You know what I'm talking about. The 420 Blaze It. I hope to God you're not hearing that motor, because some idiot is driving their motorcycle in the middle of the night. Okay, sorry about that. Anyway, I enjoy them, their marijuanas. And, well, I'm not trying to say that to sound cool or anything like that. It's more, if anything, I'm more ashamed of it than anything, but the reason why I bring it up is because this part of the story is where it gets really... It needs to be mentioned. So, in the year 2015, I had just gotten out of my second day of anthropology class, and I was walking to the bus stop to go home. And, on the way there, I met this dude with long dreadlocks going all the way down to his ass. And he said, he looked at my shirt, and I was wearing a black Sabaton shirt at the time. And he said, "Oh man, Sabaton, that's a really cool band. Hey, do you smoke weed?" And I'm just like, yeah, sure. And, he was going over how basically he was getting his financial aid in order, and there was going to be a lot of money, and he wanted to celebrate with the first stoner he found. Apparently, I have the telltale signs of somebody who smokes a lot of the Mary Janes. And he basically... We got to talking, and he introduced himself as Hot Boy. Now, I get the feeling that that's not his actual name. Just something just says that's not his real name. And that's not on his birth certificate, but whatever. So, yeah, we go to the bursar's office, get his financial aid in order, and then we go to his beat-up-ass BMW. We're apparently going to go get some drugs. And so I'm doing this with a stranger, by the way. So this seems like a very low IQ example of something that has happened to me. And it gets even dumber, because we don't do weed. We do something else called K2. And if you know anything about spices, you know what K2 is. And you're already thinking to yourself, wow, this guy's a fucking idiot. And, so we go driving around the hood, and we meet up with this fat Italian guy named Frank. Now, the thing about Frank is, when I say he's fat, I mean like he was like 400 pounds, and it turns out that this homie could jump a fence. I'll get back to that in a minute. But yeah, so we pick up Frank, and we drive around the hood for a little bit until we get to Hot Boy's brother. And when we meet up with Hot Boy's brother, Hot Boy gets his hands on this weird stuff that he says it's not weed, it's called K2, man. And so he starts to roll it up and all that kind of stuff. And a cop, by the way, passes by. He passes by the car, and he takes one look at Hot Boy as he's rolling up this quote-unquote blunt, and he just drives off. He doesn't give a shit. And Hot Boy just comes in, and then we start passing around, me, him, and Frank, around the car. And I pass it back to Hot Boy, and he says, "Did you get any?" And I'm like, I don't know if because, okay, anybody who has had any experience with weed knows that usually, depending on the strain, it is a progressive high. It takes like a few minutes for it to get like to the full high. However, with K2, it's like sober, boom. And then all of a sudden you're really, 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 really high. The problem is it only lasts for about 10 minutes, but during those 10 minutes, it's actually really, really fun. Well, we drive around, we're listening to some really shitty hip-hop music, and we go to Frank's apartment. Now, it's one of those apartments where you have to buzz people in, and Frank forgot his key, and his roommate wasn't home, so he says that he is going to jump the fence to go into the parking garage, to go into the building, to buzz us in. And I'm thinking to myself, there is no way in hell this fat homie is going to jump a fence and then be on the other side. Well, 5 minutes later, he sticks his head out of his window, his apartment window, and he says, "Hey guys, I'm buzzing you in." And yeah, we go into his house, or his apartment, and I just stare at his TV, because I'm still a little bit high at the time. And then all of a sudden, his roommate comes into the apartment, and his roommate is bringing in a motherfucking machine pistol. All right, he's bringing in, I think it was a Tech 9. And he's bringing it in like he's bringing in the motherfucking groceries. It's like one of the most casual things out there. So, to reiterate, at this point, I had accepted a ride from a stranger, accepted drugs from a stranger, and did drugs that I didn't even know the name of, nor what they were. So I did some pretty dumb things up to this point, but it took Frank's roommate bringing in a motherfucking gun for me to be able to say, you know what, that's my cue. I should probably be hitting that old dusty trail. And so yeah, I tell Hot Boy, yo, I promised my mom I'd be doing this thing at this time. I think it was like 8 p.m. And so I get on the bus and I go home, and that is my first college experience. And this story also caps off what the format of this weird ass podcast will be like. I go over the introduction with the people. In my podcast, I'll go over the various stories and whatnot. And if it's somebody that has already been there and they don't need a reintroduction, we'll just start sharing random stories that might have a loose connection to each other in one way or another. And yeah, that would probably be the best way I can describe this podcast. And it ends with them giving their social medias and how we can find them. And I always start off with mine. You can find me at High Fly Han, or it might look like High Fly Kagan to you on the YouTubes. I'll actually be posting a link to it in the description below. You can find me at my Instagram at High Fly Han as well, where I post pictures of my characters from Final Fantasy XIV, as well as other games that I occasionally play. And yeah, this has been the first podcast in this series. I have no idea where this is going to go. And honestly, I am somewhat nervous, but also somewhat excited. And yeah, I'm just eager to see where this goes, if it goes anywhere. Anyway, have a good one.